Mention friends, WCGO. It's Wednesday. We have been in talks. This is a hard appointment to get. You know that.
Oh, yeah.
With Steve Hagerty, mayor of Evanston. It's good to see you, Mayor Hagerty.
It's great to be here, you guys.
Do you smell the progress in the air as you walk into our studio? You know, we're here on Lee Street over in the West End, and there's been amazing work over the last week. New pipes under the street on the let's see what side, the east side, heading east to Dodge, and now I see paving over here on the west side of the street as right past the divider. That's going on a lot in Evanston, is it not?
Indeed, it is. I mean, you just drive downtown these days. You'll go by the center of downtown, Fountain Square, right?
Yep.
Fountain Square is all torn up. I sat down with the city engineer recently, and she went over all the plans. I think it's going to be spectacular when it's done. They're hoping to have that primarily wrapped up by the end of this year. A little may go into to the next year. And then, of course, Sheridan Road. Big project going on Sheridan Road. There's going to be by the university and also downtown, the Chicago Avenue downtown, I should say. Chicago Avenue by Davis Street. And then when you get to Sheridan, there's a major street renovation going on there. And really reconfiguration. We're going to bring bike lanes over there, which is going to be great for all Evanstonians, including the students at Northwestern. So that's pretty exciting, too.
I want you to know that Kevin Burgess is keeping me on track. I left out of here the other night and a scofflaw. He said, buddy, you don't have a light on your bike. Yeah. You're riding home. And so just so you know that I have a light on my bike now, so I'm totally compliant. Okay, what's the news? Last I heard, it was a foregone conclusion that Wally Bobkowitz is leaving as city manager. What's the news on that?
Yes, the news of Bobby's departure was overly estimated. So that's good news. That's good. I think that's good news for the city of Evanston. I think Wally Bobkowitz is a very, very professional manager. I work with lots of mayors and city managers around the country, and we have a very good one here in Evanston. And, listen, it was an opportunity that lots of people wouldn't pass up in terms of being close to his family on the West Coast in Tacoma, and his wife's family's there. He didn't ultimately get the nod, and he withdrew, which, personally, if that's what he wanted to do for his family, I'm disappointed, but I'm obviously pleased as a new mayor here in Evanston that we continue to have our experienced city manager who's been here for 8 years, and lots of the progress that you commented on earlier, obviously, is due to the good work of Wally Bobkowitz and his staff.
You mentioned that having those experienced people in place in the city as you make the transition into mayor, has there been a little bit of a learning curve for you, or you've just hit the ground running and done great?
I'm like drinking out of a fire hose. It's coming at me strong, right? Lots and lots of people that want meetings, and I am very much in the mode of wanting to absorb and learn a lot of information. The thing that I've quickly learned as mayor is you see the full spectrum of the city's operations and the full spectrum of humanity in general. And the challenges and problems that individual people or residents in this community have, whether it's mental health, whether it's about safety in their neighborhood that they're worried about. I mean, you see those things up close and personal, and it certainly hits home the weight of the responsibility that that I have as mayor, or the city council members have, or city manager. The good thing is I think we have a really dedicated city staff who's working hard to address these. So when issues come across, and I'm like, oh, this is the first time I'm hearing about it, and I send an email to others, I'm often pleased that this is on their radar screen and something they're already working on.
Mayor Steve Hagerty, City of Evanston, joins us right now. During the election, I asked you, there's that old cliche, we need more businessmen in government. And okay, very well. And you were very cognizant of the fact at the time that this is not going to be a transition. You don't run government like a business. Right. But that in mind, you always have an eye for talent when you're in business. Have you, I know I read something recently in the Tribune, you were keeping an eye open for those from the private sector who might be talents that have not been exploited to help out in government. You have your eye on some people who might be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, so right, we have a strong city manager form of government. City manager makes the choices about the different managers and directors that we have in the city. That said, the mayor is the one that appoints people to all the commissions and the boards. We have a lot of those here working on really important issues, from policing issues to homelessness issues to affordable housing issues to economic development. And one of the things that I tried to do during the campaign was have a conversation with residents here about their talents, right, and what they could bring bring to helping the city. And I think we're fortunate to live in a community where lots of people want to be a part of it, and there's great sense of ownership. So we've done a nice job, I think, of surveying lots of residents. We've had this skills survey. I don't know if you saw it, that's out there, and people have been noting their skills and their capabilities, and that's something that we're going to turn back to. And if anybody were interested that's listening to this, you can find that on our Facebook page, just Steve Hagerty, Mayor Steve Hagerty Facebook page. You'll find that skills survey there, and we'd love for folks to fill that out. So lots of work to do in terms of, filling vacancies on these boards. I have a meeting coming up next week with the city to get into all the different boards and the terms of those boards and when positions are coming open, but really looking for talented people here in Evanston to be a part of it.
If good journalism is dead, anybody who makes that assessment obviously doesn't read Evanston Now. There's an amazing piece last week about affordability of living in Evanston. I know that was a hot topic during the election. So what sort of ideas are being kicked around now to address that?
So I actually think you're referring, Daniel, to the article that was in the Daily Northwestern.
That's it.
It was the Daily. So I want to make sure we give credit to Bill Smith and Evanston Now. They do a great job covering lots of different news stories around town. But the Daily did this in-depth story. David Fishman was the author of it. And he went around and talked to tons of people in the community, including myself, the former mayor, and others. And that article pointed out what we all knew in the campaign is, affordability is an issue here. Again, what are we doing right now? I mean, I can tell you last week the city council did just allocate $570,000 out of the Affordable Housing Fund to the Community Affordable Partners group that comes out of Highland Park that does really, really good work. And so they're going to be bringing a couple online. But again, I think what we're looking for, ideally what people want, but I don't know if this an easier solution. How do we make more of a macro change or impact here locally on this stuff, as opposed to this one-off? Okay, great. Here's an affordable housing. Here's an affordable. It's tough.
Well, I think the greater issue, this is not just Evanston. This is coast to coast. Is how do we get more money in people's pockets? We don't need to turn to landlords and say, okay, the government will subsidize you to help out with the market should dictate what rent is, and whether it's high or whether it's low, it's higher in more desirable places. This is one of the most desirable places in the Chicago area. So let's talk about that. More money in people's pockets. I see Target is coming to Evanston. That's a huge thing. That's money, honey. What with Target? I mean, that's going to make a big difference. What are some of the studies, the feasibility studies? What did Target say? What did some of the internal people say looking at this? What sort of difference an operation like that may make in people's bottom line?
I can tell you certainly the sense of residents and students at Northwestern is they're really excited, right?
Yeah,
because Target has good prices and high quality products that you can buy. I think everyone's excited about them coming here, and I like your broad perspective because it's the perspective I have on affordability. That it's not just housing, and so for folks that live near the downtown area that are on fixed incomes, here's a better place to shop, right? When you need things. I think I was at something recently where the library was talking about the Center for Economic Progress. They do tax returns for lower income residents. And I saw a report recently that $1 million was returned to Evanston residents who participated with the Center for Economic Progress. Okay. So that's certainly one where I think we need to look at that and say, wow, have we reached the entire universe here in Evanston? I mean, maybe there's another $5 million to be saved, because that's real money, again, in people's pockets. So, we have a lot of development that's being proposed for downtown, and with the inclusionary housing policy here in Evanston, either they're going to have to put affordable housing, 10% of the housing units will have to be affordable, or they'll pay $100,000 per unit into the affordable housing fund of the city. Okay. And so it's recognized, I think, by almost everyone that we need to have a conversation about how we are best using, the money that's in the Affordable Housing Fund, because we think it's going to be several $1 million in a few years from now from some of the potential development that's going on. And again, we want to make the most impact with that money.
One of the things also throughout this election seemed to be foremost in people's minds was the environment. We've got this jewel of the lake, the beauty of Evanston. It's well known. What are some of the ideas and plans that we have for making this an even more sustainable community?
Well, we want to continue to reduce our carbon footprint.
Mhm.
We've been successful at reducing that, and I believe we've signed up. We're about to sign up to meeting. I think it's the U.S. Conference of Mayors 27% goal in carbon reduction. We're a little less than 20% right now on our plan. The biggest way for us to do that is through our electric aggregation contract, which basically means that we're buying renewable energy. Okay, and so that's coming up for renewal. That's going to be on the agenda of the council on June 12th. So our next council meeting, if you're interested in the environment and you have a strong opinion, come to that meeting to learn more about the electric aggregation. But that's probably the biggest, most significant thing right now that we want to make sure that we continue to do. If that doesn't pass, what it means is we use conventional energy, which is dirtier.
Yeah.
And, the Trump administration and Washington, can have, different opinions on the environment. And even today, driving to work, I heard something about he may decline to participate in the Paris Accord,
right.
that which I think is a real problem. But that doesn't mean that we don't do what we can do here in Evanston. I think other cities feel the same way. In fact, I was just invited a couple of weeks ago to go to China at their expense. A city there wanted to fly me out to talk about what we're doing here in Evanston.
Great.
So that's, again, something we should all be proud of. I can't make the trip, but it certainly makes me feel good for what everybody here in Evanston's doing.
Well, you could send Dan in your place if you want. He's been to China, actually.
I've been to the land of China with my Flexo-Light ping pong paddle. No, I did go just a long time ago, and I actually think that that's a sea change. President, is it Xi? I always forget these days, has said recently they want breathable air in Beijing and Shanghai and Hong Kong, and that is probably one of the largest undertakings by a federal government in the history of mankind. I mean, that is an absolute about-face from the way they've been doing things. So it's actually quite encouraging, and it's going to cost them a ton of money to do it, which means if they need American consultants, we have breathable air here. We've been ahead of the game, so we've got a lot of money to make off of them. I'm very encouraged. You do mention one thing that I feel has been a cancer to the polity at large, coast to coast. This is not a political statement on my part, but just making too much about what Washington does instead of what we are doing locally. Do you feel like we are focused as Evanstonians here on fixing our lives from here outward instead of, the onerous eye of Washington solving all of our problems? Or are we too distracted?
No, I think we are. I mean, I think that he's certainly in a progressive community like Evanston, the anxiety is high. Okay, when you talk to people and what's going on in Washington. And so to relieve some of that anxiety, you ask yourself, well, what can I do from where I stand? And what can I do here locally? And I think a data point for that, Daniel, is the fact that we had 80% more people vote in this most recent local election than we did 8 years ago. Remember, 8 years ago, we had like 10,300 people vote. We had over 18,000 people that just voted on April 4th. 80% increase. Now you ask yourself, okay, why did we have that increase? And again, I think there's just theories out there. No one will ever know for certain. Why did I win or why did I lose an election? Why did so many people show up or not show up? I think there are two things. Certainly there was a school referendum that passed big here in Evanston with 80% for District 65, which was great news. But I also think there is a Trump effect here in Evanston, and people are asking, well, what can I do? And so I think we're going to see more and more people want to get involved locally. And the fact that, again, 18,000 people, which was, I think, about 38% of the registered voters showed up to vote here, is very promising.
That's an absolutely smashing effect. I mean, that's killer. Okay, a lot of good things we can talk about next time. Will we or won't we have, an increased minimum wage in the state? This is almost a done deal, right?
I think so.
We've got that. What else is in mind? Plenty of things. Mayor Steve Hagerty. Are we calling this the Hagerty Huddle? I like it.
I think so. And you've got a Hagerty Huddle, what is it, this Friday at the Fountain Square?
We do. Is it this? Excuse me. It's this Monday, coming Monday.
Oh, I apologize.
I think. It's next week. If you look on our Facebook page, Mayor Steve Hagerty, you'll find the Hagerty Huddle, and you want to know more what's going on down at Fountain Square,
June 5th.
Please come on by World of Beers.
All right. Thank you so much, Mayor Steve Hagerty, City of Evanston. Looking forward to your tenure. More French and Friends coming up.
Thank you.